The dream world and the unconscious psyche shows its positive face only to us if we go with life, if we don't refuse to live. We speak of the river often as the flow of life, the flow of time. Time is a river which ends in the ocean of eternity. Life is a river, it begins with a youthful spring and finally ends in the sea of the Godhead, and so on. It's a famous simile for the ever-moving, ever-changing facts of life, which are really the ever-moving changing of our psychic substance which carries us. Think a minute of the strange thing that our ego consciousness is every night blotted out for hours and returns identical the next morning. Why should you not wake up and be somebody else? You are completely continuous yourself. So there's something which carries us through, apparently, which carries our identity through all life. Our body changes its cells. We have practically no old cells in our body left after 7 years, and still we remain ourselves. There's something like an essential psychic substance in us which carries us through in our identity, and that is this mysterious flow of life. That's the river. And the water of life is, well, that is difficult to define, but you can say most people experience, sometimes they feel when they feel well, they say they feel alive. Even if they might have sufferings and difficulties in their life, there are times where people feel alive. And then when people are in a neurotic fix or in some trouble, they say, I'm dead, I'm inwardly dead, I don't live. This shows that being alive is not only a physical fact, it is a psychic fact. Being alive is, we are alive when we feel alive. And what makes us feel alive is the contact with that flow of the unconscious psyche. That's why dreams are so important. You can say, you could even refer that deeper with a bit of water of life to say, each ladle full of water of life is a dream. That's what a dream is. We get every night, so to speak, a sip of the water of life. And if we understand the dream, then we are vivified. And then we feel alive. We feel in contact with our psychic depth and with our own living substance, and then we subjectively feel that life is flowing, that we are alive. The river is also an image of time, of the flow of time, and that is naturally a question, not only what does this or that dream means, but what is the whole river of dream life we have every night? What is it? What's the meaning of it? Where does that come from? What's the basic principle of its aliveness? Well, nightmares are really, you could say, most substantially vital, important dreams. They wake you up with a cry and they are the electroshock nature uses on us when nature wants to wake us up. The word nightmare comes from mare, and the idea was that an evil ghost in form of a black horse or so on was riding you in the night, and then you woke up with a cry and woke up completely exhausted. The waking up point of a dream means the bang with which the unconscious says, now that is it, now attend to that. And so the nightmare is really shock therapy. It wants to shock us out of a deep unconscious sleepiness about some dangerous situation. When we have nightmares, it means we are in a psychological danger of some sort and much too sleepy and unaware about it. And then we have a nightmare to wake us up. The nightmare has a characteristic of a certain urgency, as if the unconscious would say, look here, that problem is urgent. For instance, they are naturally the incubus or succubus, that means the male partner attacking a woman in the dream or vice versa, shows the sexual problem is urgent, has to be attended to, has to be made conscious. One cannot just push it aside and pretend it doesn't exist. I have experienced falling and not being dead, and being caught up or waking up before I hit the floor or so on. It simply means a shock collision with reality. If you are too high up, If you have dreams of falling, it always means that you are somewhere too high up. Either you have a too good opinion of yourself, you are megalomaniac, or you have romantic, unreal ideas, or you are living in a make-believe world, or you are living in a theory instead of... You are somewhere missing the contact with reality. And then you have a sudden fall. And sudden fall dreams generally occur together with outer deep disappointment, when one is suddenly kind of faced with reality, naked reality as it is. And that can be a deadly shock to the ego. One can be, so to speak, be blotted out by it for a while. And that will be the death by hitting the floor. The ego is out, has nothing to say anymore. An invasion, something which is breaking in, burglary. Burglars very often represent something breaking into one's conscious system. So it would mean in a corner where one still has childish reaction, something from the collective unconscious breaks in. You might, for instance, have the day before had some disagreeable experience, and those burglars refer to that disagreeable experience you had the day before. There's something broke into your system. Or you might have had a negative, destructive thought right from within. That might also be represented by burglars. Something destructive or negative suddenly breaking into your system. So you have to shortly try to remember what happened yesterday, outwardly and inwardly, main lines. And then you probably can make a meaningful connection. Then you see, aha, it refers to that. It refers to that thought I had yesterday or that experience, and it shows me that I behaved in the right way or in the wrong way. It kind of corrects one's attitude. When she comes up to the bedroom first, she finds this dark-haired unknown intruder, and she's just furious for having somebody unknown intruding into her private life, and slaps the intruder. We don't know who that dark-haired woman is. We can therefore only conclude it is a part of her personality whom she has no idea of, another part of herself whom she doesn't know, and whom she feels strange and whom she wants to reject within herself, because she's unaccustomed to it. Very often during life we are suddenly assaulted by a new part of our personality, so to speak. We have new kind of feelings or reactions which we never had before, and very often out of sheer habit we hate that. We don't like to change. What's that? Why am I suddenly feeling so differently? And then we feel it's uncanny, and anything uncanny we try to slap down within us, instead of being open and saying, what new feelings or reactions do I have? Let's look at them. But she has this rejection. This dream begins, I'm driving by night with a female companion. Therefore, he is not at home, he's not in his professional situation at the university, he's not milling around in a pub with other people, he is driving at night with a female companion. And there one could then ask him, how does one feel in such a situation? That's a situation where one relaxes, where one puts aside one's daily worries, one is open to nature, one is open to seeing something new, or depends on the relationship to the feminine companion, what else one has in mind. But it suggests also a rather, possibly a love situation, or at least a situation of positive companionship, in contrast to intellectual effort or social amusement or so on. And it is night. Then we have to say, ask ourselves, what is it in the night? Again, in the night we are inclined to be more open, more romantic, more reflective, because our attention is not drawn away by telephones and outer things. It is a moment of relaxed reflection in general, where also the feeling and the repressed other sides of the personality come up. Proposes to go for a walk, leave the car and go for a walk. This is a big step forward. He gives up the mechanical way of moving through life. And when you walk, you are in much closer touch with nature, but you are also very much slowed down. So you go step by step and you feel the country, you feel the earth, you feel the trees and the air around you much better. So that is the positive change which comes around from this vision on the sky. We have to first ask ourselves, what is the mirror? In the mirror, the mirror reflects our image, and if you think of the double meaning of the word reflection, it also means to reflect upon oneself. To think, to reflect means to bend back upon oneself, to find one's own identity. And the mirror shows one's objective, true face. Therefore, it's very often a shock to look at oneself in a mirror. And if you think of the mirror in the fairy tale Snow White, the mirror tells the truth to the old witch and says that Snow White is more beautiful than she is, and the witch gets furious at that. So the mirror is also what shows the reflection which shows the true identity. Cleaning and washing is mostly a woman's connection with the earth, with the body, with the material world. It's an expression of love towards matter, devotion to the principle of matter. And washing dirty linen is to sort out all the little shadow things one has done, to dwell on them. You see, generally, if we do some mischief against our will, if we do some harm to our friends or forget something important or so, we are for a moment aware of it, but we push it aside, we forget about it as quickly as possible. We said, oh yes, that's annoying, and in the afternoon already one has forgotten, while the good things one remembers all the time. And so one accumulates a lot of dirty linen and has from time to time to do washing. Actually, a psychotherapeutic treatment is mostly washing dirty linen. People say, my friend said that and that gossip against me and I got angry and so, and then you find out that there is a shadow projection upon each other. Both project the shadow upon each other, and it comes out in petty little quarrels and jealousies and so on. That's dirty linen. That weightless woman is probably, again, another shadow figure of her, another part of her personality which has no weight, no substance. We say about somebody what they say has no weight, or as a personality have no weight. And that is somehow they have no psychic solidity, no substance. One doesn't feel the other person as somebody substantial. And that comes because she doesn't. What gives us substance, strangely enough, is our shadow. Our shadow is the positive thing. That girl's shadow is weightless because she does the washing of the dirty linen outside. That means probably she enjoys a lot of gossipy, criticizing other people among colleagues and so on, but never takes it home. She never takes it home to herself. She never asks, and me, what am I doing to the others? She hasn't realized her shadow yet, and therefore her other personality is weightless in a negative sense. The whole problem is already told in the first sentence of the dream, where the dreamer says, I was lying on a mattress floating in the air. The dreamer is shown that she has no relationship to the earth, she has not her feet on the earth, she has no contact with reality. And that means she has also no real contact with her own body. And she's living in ideas, in theoretical conceptions of life, in illusions. He shows that it happened when she wanted to pee in a toilet. Now, to pee generally has a symbolism of expressing oneself genuinely. Peeing is one of the few functions man cannot repress. We can repress sleep for a while, we can repress eating for a while, but peeing is just above us. It rules us, and therefore it is an expression of, here I am, that's how I am. It always means to be genuine. And the dream says, look here, for once you have tried to be genuine when you asked this man, do you love me, and inferred at the same time that you love him. That was your true feeling. And you got hit, but you did not get hit really by him, the partner who told you he's not interested in you. You got hit by somebody else. You got hit by this karate hero, by that horrible man who hits with a karate gesture your throat. Now this karate man is within her, as if the dream says you did not get the shock from outside, you got it from your own nature, which reminds one of the fact that Jung once said, there is no difficulty which we ultimately are not to ourselves. We are our own difficulty. And her love difficulty is within herself. She has such a karate fellow in her, and she can only therefore develop further or become herself if she realizes that the terrible shock she fetched herself in the outer world is something, a problem in her own nature, and that she has to face up to the fact that she has such a hard fighting man in herself who devaluates her as a woman. The path is leading downwards, a rather dangerous step. She has to come on a deeper down level of reality, become more realistic, realizing her practical life situation. And she succeeds in doing so, and then she comes to a village, an old village, old-fashioned village, which probably mirrors the old-fashioned way of life, where women were not allowed to have any initiative of their own, where they had this kind of passive, submissive life of the past. Now the mother for a woman represents the instinctual basis, the matrix, also the whole area of the uterus. If a woman has trouble with her mother, she has very often trouble with menstruation and with her own sexual functions and her maternal feelings. The mother is, so to speak, the earth from which she lives. And that mother figure lets the Dobermans loose on her a fierce, hostile, negative attack of the instincts. So the dream says, because you are floating in midair, because you have lost touch with reality, the instinctual basis of your femininity has become hostile to you and is threatening you, which goes very well with the fact that she became afterwards ill. Because if one lives against one's own animal instincts, then illness is in the offing. And there she finds that in the center square of the village a man is hung up. In that atmosphere of old-fashioned femininity, all the positive masculine forces in woman are suspended, literally suspended. They are killed, they cannot act, and therefore the dream shows what is wrong with her. She probably, being in a very difficult outer situation, would be inclined to think that all her bad luck lies in the outer situation and in her negative marital situation. And the dream shows her that the real trouble is that her own masculinity is dead, is not functioning, and has to be rescued and revived again. Hanging is, in general, a kind of negative deification. After all, the god of Western civilization is a hanged man. And it means the moment of being elevated into the spiritual realm and be recognized as a god, but at the expense of human reality. One is, so to speak, hung up in eternity, and the human reality is dead. And that's why, for instance, the old Germans hung up their prisoners in honor of Wotan. And when the wind was blowing them back and forth on the gallows or the trees where they hung them, that was meant that Wotan, the god, the spiritual god, was taking them to them. But it also means what the English word says, to be in a suspended state. Suspended means hanging. So it means that all her masculine intelligence and capacity of action and courage and all her masculine qualities are existing but suspended, in suspense, and not touching the reality. They are turned upside down, where the man should have his head up, which means she should have her head up herself and think her situation over and take it in hand like a man. And all that is suspended and condemned to inaction through an old-fashioned attitude towards life on one side and through a too great identity with her mother on the other side. for instance, a negative father figure becomes more and more amenable, appears less dangerous, or something like that, or you have a danger situation which occurs already in the beginning dreams, and it occurs again in later dreams, but in later dreams there's a solution to it. There's a little continuation which ends better. So as if nature would slowly brood on those problems and slowly develop them. And that's the whole idea of dream interpretation. By interpreting dream, by joining in with the conscious attention, one can speed up that maturing. There is a kind of natural maturing process, or a natural process of working out problems. And analysis is nothing else than to concentrate conscious attention on that natural maturing process so that it is speeded up, as if you would add fire to it, you would add attention to it, then it goes faster.